And it just reminded me
Okay,
to stop it. Yeah, you got it. You got the floor.
okay, thank you. Um, this is now 7:35, and we have a quorum. And well, we're going to take attendance. So I am here. Steve Fruit is here. Sylvia is here. Jessica is here. Sergio is here. So we have enough and more than a quorum. Meeting is now begun. First item on the agenda. Well, this is the agenda right here. And I'll skip past it and go to my next page, which is the minutes, approval of the minutes of the January meeting. Any comments on it? There were a couple of comments that came in, like I wasn't sure how to list Chuck, but in effect, he's marked as absent. Even though he's on Zoom, but he doesn't have the ADA approval, stamp of approval, as do Sylvia and myself. Any comments on the minutes? There being none, take a vote. Anyone opposed to approving the minutes? Anyone abstaining from approving the minutes? So let the record note that the minutes are approved unanimously. Let me write that down. Okay. Chair's report. Just want to highlight two issues, and it's not for discussion tonight. The first is at the executive committee last week, the question was raised as whether or not anything was being done concerning the working committee on the reorganization of the committees. I proudly said I had a conversation with Sergio, so I know something was done. And I can't speak for anybody else, but something was done. So it's in Sergio's court.
Well, Julia is a member of that working group, and she sent out to at least 10 people an invitation to schedule times to discuss the issues raised that the working group will be addressing. And I spoke with her on the phone, and we had a good conversation, and I communicated some thoughts. So I'm assuming that this is going on all this past month.
Yeah, and
Do
I
you,
think my
uh,
conversation with Sergio was 2 months ago. so, so with your
have you,
comment in mind, excuse me, your comment in mind, obviously the committee is functioning, and we should expect, hopefully, shortly, some kind of report.
yeah,
Uh,
very shortly, we've got some bullet points, and that may be what, what we put out and open it up to questions on rationale afterwards. But you received the call. Um, we have three members of the working group, and each one was assigned a portion of our list. That's why some people received emails and calls, some people received the invitation. But yes, we do have, we're 90% to a work product.
great, great. Okay, second item, which I think will be resolved very shortly. The Veterans Committee came up with a designee for their award, but apparently the community board has never passed a resolution creating the award. And I believe from my last email with Sergio, that will be taken care of. So I don't know if it's coming up this month or whenever, but that will be addressed.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out to good detail.
Right.
What's
Okay.
the feedback? You're online?
No,
Okay.
Steve
it's probably
Matthews.
from one of them.
Oh, it's Marty.
No, it's Steve. It's an echo from Steve, so he probably has a small.
Steve, can you mute?
I guess Marty let him in.
I let him in, I'm guilty.
Perhaps Steve Matthews can mute. Oh, maybe he did. We don't hear the feedback.
Okay.
Okay, now we have this bylaws thing, which I'm truly hoping we can resolve tonight and bring before the committee board tomorrow night on the first step toward having this amendment. Now, after our meeting last month, I immediately, that same night, we're still getting an echo. Who's
Yep, it's from
echoing?
Steve. I'm gonna mute him. It's all set.
Well, Steve is now muted.
I just muted him.
Okay,
Done.
all right, well, I'd love to hear from you, Steve, so let us know when you want to speak.
He can raise his hands.
All right, so after the last meeting, that very same night, I received Steve raised his hand. Okay. Steve, you want to say something? Please do.
Just hello.
There you go.
Glad to see you, Marty.
I'm glad to be seen. Or as they say in the old country, it's better to be seen than to be viewed. No laugh on
Steve,
that. Okay.
Steve, I'm just gonna mute. I'm just gonna mute your mic. If you could raise your hand, just because we were getting feedback from your mic.
But I'm not
Okay.
hearing it now.
Okay. All right. Let's get. All right. He got it. He knows the deal
All right.
now.
So right after the meeting, I got the first draft from Sergio, and I was working that for a while. Then I think I got something from Steve, and I try to combine them. And then Steve made other changes. And what I believe you have tonight, it is close to, if not the final piece of work. Um, just to remind everyone, because there seemed to have been some confusion over time. So let me try and clarify, at least in my mind, what's going on. Chuck raised the issue initially that there were people who were no longer on the board. In the particular case, a person who did not reapply, and that he felt we should not be losing that strain of knowledge and ability. Quite frankly, that discussion, well, side to that discussion was the fact that the Law, Rules, and Ethics Committee and the Land Use Committee by our bylaws cannot have members on the committee who are not members of the board. There's no community membership. And that seems to have confused some of the discussion that followed afterwards. And we seem to agree, I think we did agree, not seem, we agreed that just throwing out the door people whose term limits came up saying, thank you very much, we no longer want you here, was inappropriate and self-defeating and would create what we believe is some kind of brain drain, losing these people. And so we came up with the idea that in that 1 year, when the person is no longer allowed to be on the board because of term limits, for that 1 year, and we're defining the year as when they are told, perhaps April, that they are no longer on the board, or their term limits are up at that point, up until the following June, so it's a little longer than a year. Such a person who wants to remain active on the community board can request to sit on a committee any committee for which that person has served within the last 5 years on that committee. So, with two exceptions, the executive committee, obviously, and the budget committee, which requires that all of its members be chairs of committees. So, without reference to whether it's land use, whether it's a traffic and transportation, or land use, or whatever, a person who was a member of the board, who is now term limited, and served on one of these committees can request to be a community member without the necessity of going through 3 months worth of screening to find out whether another person is worthy or not. That was the background of all of this. And so any reference to the law committee or the law, rules, and ethics committee is irrelevant because it's any standing committee. When I looked at it again for the umpteenth time, I realized that we had not set it up in the form of a resolution. We've only made statements that supported the reason for doing it, but not the actual resolution. And so I put together the same information in a resolution, and I passed that out, shared it, and then Steve felt that other things that needed correction on it. And so what you had received from me today was Steve's updated rewrite of a resolution and the following statement, which is of importance because it both identifies where it fits into the current bylaws and defines exactly what the wording would be to put into the bylaws. So I think I've covered everything except that Steve had a problem with this and I had a problem with it, and I kept trying to change it. And for some reason, my computer wouldn't let me. And so
I didn't have a problem. There was just a typo. There was just one word. Appointment was plural, which should be singular in the second to last line.
I sought to correct, but somehow my computer and I weren't getting along.
Oh,
Are there
I
any
see. Well,
comments?
Marty corrected it and printed out a clean copy on one page with a proper heading, which says Law, Rules, and Ethics Committee, Bronx Community Board 8, Resolution, Bylaws Amendment, Article 6, Section 9, and the date, March 9th. So Artie has already created a clean, pretty copy based on what you sent around earlier today with that S deleted.
Okay, thank you for all of that. Are there any comments from people who are seeing this either for the first time or who have read it and want to offer a comment?
I think this is the clean version of what you had sent out. I'm actually opposed to it.
Donna?
Yeah, I know.
He's opposed to it, and I said,
Actually, now, yeah, at this stage of the meeting. Yes.
I'm all ears. You explain why you're opposed to it?
And I had did I respond to everybody with it?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
saw
But it
an
was
email.
435.
It was 4:35. I just think it's too narrow. I think we can accomplish the same thing by giving the board chair and the standing committee chairs appropriate authority for an exceptional circumstance to waive the 3-month rule. And I put in what I suggested that past membership on the board can be exceptional circumstances. I just think it reeks of going against the spirit of what term limits does. It does create a brain drain. It is going to create something like that. But, I'm not so comfortable just, blatantly going against the spirit of the law. And it does feel a little self-serving that it's coming up now. So that's why I'm generally more comfortable with giving the chair authority, giving the committee chairs authority. And, there may be somebody else who could be a good community committee member. If we have in our neighborhood someone who's, the past commissioner of the Department of Parks, that person could probably be on the Parks Committee, without the 3-month attendance rule. So that's my concern, and that's why I'm voting against it. I realized it when it came out though, and we did have this discussion. Everything is true to the discussion we had. That's all.
Any other comments?
I would just say, in response to Sergio's concerns, that the only reason for the amendment is that there are things that the board chair or the committee chair can't waive, which is the ability to be a CCM on land use and LRE. And so that's really the reason that it can't be discretion. As far as the 3-month rule, you don't need a bylaws amendment because that's not in the bylaws. So that can just be a change to the procedure manual. But the reason it's in here in this format, with an actual bylaw amendment, is because you needed to get around that membership requirement for those two committees.
Any other comments?
I say, I think we discussed this, ad nauseum almost, where I feel like it's good, just because this is the first time that we're going to be shocked with term limits as a community board, and I'd be concerned about losing the foundation that the community board has built with the wisdom of the people that have been on the board. And then deal with any circumstances contrary to the resolution once that comes up. But I do think it is more helpful than hurtful to maintain it. I don't see this. I hear you. I'm one of the people that had it brought up with not, the spirit of transitioning community members into the board is kind of what the spirit of the term limits is trying to achieve. But I don't think that will outweigh the wisdom that still hasn't properly transitioned to either um, development workshops or, just ways of streamlining new community members to become confident, strategic, and highly developed members of the community board. So it's just like, I feel like retaining the knowledge is more important than, any of the risks that can come out later. I think we could deal with that later. I don't know how better to explain that other than my own personal experience, right? I'm now technically on my 3rd year of being a community board member, and it goes really, really fast.
So you have 5 years left.
Yeah, so I have 5 years left.
Give your life ahead.
Presuming, right, that I'm still a part of this community, presuming that I'm still serving, presuming a lot of other things. But I tell you, this is the first year where I'm a vice chair, right? I'm still not, I haven't been a chair. I don't know what an executive committee looks like. I'm still familiarizing myself with the city charter, along with the community board, rules and how we do things. I just think it just takes so much time to get warmed up to service that I feel like, I feel like we still need a holding hand. And if people are willing to continue to hold hands and continue to serve, we should support making that easy for the people that have already kind of paved the road, over the years.
Anybody else? Sergio, I agree with you that this is very specific, but that was the intent. Not to open the
No, no,
doors, not to open the doors generically, but specifically for this particular group of people year after year, the different people.
yes.
We don't want when I leave, the whole concept of reapplying in a year hasn't set into my mind. It's something I'm ready to do. People may or may not, but just be thrown out strikes me as harsh and regardless of what the law says. We all know that in the last election, when they voted for three items on so-called affordable housing, we know that the voters made a mistake. They may very well have made a mistake this time too, but they have that right. So we'd be violating the spirit. I think we're being more humane about it.
Okay. No, no,
Yeah, I also,
I certainly get both arguments. I mean, I'm not a hill I'm gonna die on, but I'm not gonna filibuster it.
yeah, I also,
Stop it.
I mean, honestly, I never saw this with a focus on respect or anything to the people who've served for a long time and are now off. I didn't think that had any part of it at all. My understanding and about this was simply kind of more along the lines of what Jessica was saying, which is just the board should have an easier shot at tapping these people for a period after they're off, because as you properly point out, Marty, it's very hard to predict whether, people are going to reapply or not. But this allows them on two pretty crucial committees to keep their hand in it, as well as the other committees too. But there, Sergio's point holds, which you don't really need to single them out for the other committees. It's not necessary.
Right. Nice. Okay.
So
Is there anything with regarding the words or,
No, I think the words are what we discussed. I think
Yeah,
I
it's
think the
clean.
corrections are pretty clean in terms of what we discussed. I'm gonna vote against it, but it is what we discussed. I'm not lying.
Okay.
We talked about 2 months ago when I was here.
I'm just wondering if we need to add an additional whereas to kind of sentiment, the spirit of the resolution, right? Which is to incentivize. I don't think I read anywhere, because I'm concerned that we could be spending, it's a nice sunny day today, and I felt like I could have been anywhere, and I chose to be here because I made a commitment. If that commitment goes away, and if that commitment goes away with people that are term limited, I can very easily see how, you know, people won't reapply, right? There's many ways to how to serve, and I think it's important to give people the opportunity to continue to choose to be here. Um, you know,
I think the third whereas I think does that, Jeff.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, I think
Whereas it would facilitate their
I
service.
kind of see that in the third whereas.
Me
but-
too.
okay. Okay, and then at best it'll go in discussion, and if something needs to be said,
Yeah.
we say it. Mhm.
Sylvia, Steve, any comment?
Not for me.
Steve Matthews, any
Yes,
comment?
it would.
No,
It's an order to.
Okay. Sylvia, any comment?
No, I just feel that if this were not in place at the time that we're term limited, there are
Steve, I'm gonna mute you again.
I'm getting an echo.
You shouldn't get it anymore.
Okay, and I just got my vice chair, and she's new to the board this year. Somebody like that needs something like this to support them in their new position. I think it's an important resolution, and I'm all for it.
Is there a motion to call the question?
I move the question.
Question has been moved. Seconds?
Second,
Okay, well, I got Sergio and Steve. Okay, all
Sure.
those in favor? So
Aye.
signify.
I
Aye. I heard three voices.
Aye.
It's four voices, okay. That means it passes. And Sergio, you are voting no?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So the resolution has passed. And we can move on to the next item. Now, this item seemed more important 2 months ago, and right now I'm not really sure why we're discussing it. But as I recall, there was a concern expressed by a member of the board who felt that the demand of getting minutes out as quickly as required was oppressive because that person had to do two sets of minutes. And no argument there, but the question was, what are our rules concerning minutes? And I immediately went to what do you call it, the open meetings law, which has this
Public
paragraph,
officers.
and it says, well, forget the 1 week for the executive session, but 2 weeks from the date of such meeting, minutes must be available to the public. That is specific in the OML, as opposed to this section here in our bylaws, which apparently is silent on the issue. Must have minutes, must have must go out, but it doesn't say when. So the question is, do we have to do anything? Was OML supersedes whatever we do and just leave things as they are and just know the requirement is 2 weeks from the meeting having taken place, minutes must be what do you call it, distributed, which I think is what our rule is. Our unwritten rule is concerning the bylaws and the board. Having fumbled through that, are there any comments?
Steve Crude has a comment, Marty.
Steve?
I agree that I don't think that there's anything that is necessary to be done within our bylaws or our procedures manual. As I read the law, we have no requirement to produce minutes by state law if we are recording and posting recordings. That being said, we are not going to have a recording for public safety. And we may not have a recording for certain committees that meet off-site,
Right.
which more committees should do. Um, but at least for the majority of our meetings that are recorded, I think we're kind of off the hook. That being said, our bylaws say minutes must be taken. That's been the way it's been. And with respect to procedures, which can emanate from the board chair, we have, I guess, had some sort of a practice and custom of 2 weeks. So I don't think there's anything that's necessary to be done, but I understand that this started with a question that you got, Marty. So that's why it's with us, I guess. So I don't know how you feel like you need to report or to whom you need to report, but I don't think we need to recommend action.
I agree.
I agree, Marty. I think it's a problem it's a solution in search of a problem for us. And I think that, once having the option, I think including possibly for the member, although we don't record exec, if there's a Zoom option and that gets posted, that satisfies the law for until we have the written minutes, I think we're good all the way around.
And ask a question.
Go ahead. Jessica.
Thank you. Is the context regarding minutes for recordings like ours, or regarding the lack of minutes for meetings that happen off-site of the office? Like, can I just get some context there?
Well, I was reading from from the state law, and that's why I said what I said. It's in the expanded agenda that Marty circulated.
Oh, okay. So
That's it.
it is here. Okay.
I think that's it.
So, I mean, my question is more so the context of the person asking about the minutes. Perhaps I just want to clarify, are they looking to fulfill the minimum, which is the law? Or is the idea just because they want a checklist, right? So then it's like, okay, did we take attendance, right? Yes, we did, right? Did we, did we qualify the votes? And, yes, okay. Like just because like I've been to, for example, I've been to an economic development meeting, and it's very easy, especially like there's a lot of ambient noise, right? Because you're in a restaurant. Then you have people that are taking part of the meeting, but you don't know who they are because you don't necessarily have like a clean table the way we do, where people walk in, sign in, like there isn't as much structure as we do here. So I can see how perhaps the context of this is just like, hey, like I'm realizing that, I don't have a recording to lean on, and I'm giving incomplete or unsatisfactory minutes, and I want to be able to do that more efficiently, and they're just looking for like a checklist.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna stay away from the context for a minute. But the issue here, the secondary issue, is that many of our minutes are too voluminous. There's no reason for all of that. Under the state and under the bylaws requirements, it's very specific. Resolutions, motions, votes, a summary of reports, but not on and on and on in terms of he said, she said, whatever. Some minutes get voluminous and they need not be. And so that makes it more onerous to do the minutes. I think some of our minutes have been a lot longer and more explicit than they had to be. So the issue right now is I think we're dropping it. Everything is fine. And I raise it. I will report back appropriately, but we're leaving things as they are. Any other thoughts?
I just don't see attendance. That's it. It says the minutes shall contain all resolutions, motions brought to the board, the results of the votes, and a summary of the reports, but it doesn't actually say attendance.
That's right, it doesn't. In summary of results of all votes, actually our minutes under the city charter needs to be more expansive. The result of all votes is a vote of 5-4, but our minutes have to say which 5 and which 4. So at the moment, I think I'm going to leave it to the next chair of this committee. They don't want to do anything about it.
I'm fine with that. Okay. Copy.
I don't see attendance here either. Be available.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at OML.
The Public Officers Law, Section 106?
Yep,
Okay.
doesn't say attendance, interestingly.
It's implied.
Okay, and that high point, I sent out COB. I don't know if I sent them all out. Now that I have a chance, I will look at what I sent and didn't send, or multiple send. I know there was one that came to my attention, but I can't recall. Steve Matthew raised a very interesting question. I don't know if he pursued it. In some cases, we see similar. Well, you could read to find the exact details, but it's similar crimes, similar what's the word, violations of the city charter. One gets charged $15 with a smile, and the other guy has to give up their firstborn son. And Steve was questioning why there's such misalignment. Makes no sense. Did you pursue that, Steve? Steve Matthews?
Yes, I did. I haven't gotten a response. I have a note on my to try and follow up. I sent a comment to the question to a reporter for the New York Times who had written the article that raised the question in my mind. I haven't heard back from him.
I'm trying to remember the issue, what we left. There were three,
I can't remember it either. I have to go back and find the email and dig out the.
but there were three separate cases where the violations look similar from this angle and with vastly different penalties assigned to them. Anyhow, it's worth looking into further. I
Just
thank
out of
Steve.
curiosity, I will pursue it again.
I thank Steve for taking that up. Legislative spreadsheet, I didn't even look at. Unfinished business, anything I've missed, we've missed, need to go back to? Any new business? Any
I have a
funny business?
question.
You what?
I just have a question regarding, can you hear me? Sorry.
I hear you.
Okay. Regarding like if uh if the press wants a statement, what are the rules around how those statements are handled and hierarchy and how does that work?
Our bylaws are, what do you call it? Ethical guidance manual says that all communication with the press must be cleared through the chair of the board. And so if you were to get a phone call, what do you think about X, Y, or Z? You certainly can speak on behalf of yourself. I have no idea what the board is doing. I have no idea what the committee is doing. I personally feel that's legit. But if you speak on behalf of the board or behalf of the committee, that requires going through the chair. Now, it's funny you raised that because I was I was contacted indirectly on Friday, and I got back to them today. Um, it was Julie I spoke with, who was contacted by the press concerning members of the community advisory group working with the Hebrew Home, setting up its the new building first, but the new buildings they want to set up. And she was looking for a member of the community group, and I was second. I think Chuck was first, but I had authorization from the chair of the board to be able to speak to the committee, speak to the press. Just as a warning, just because I said XYZ doesn't mean they're going to print XYZ. They may claim you said ABC. I had a problem once with Buddy Stein when I'm very careful with the words I use with the press. And what came out was not what I said. And when I contacted Buddy and said, "What is this?" His response to me was, "But that's what you meant." Well, that's very nice. And why'd you bother interviewing me if you know what I meant? So I would suggest, from personal experience, you got to be careful with the press. They are they appear to be, but they aren't necessarily supporters, and can do weird things with your words. Did I address your question?
Article,
Yes, thank you.
I would just add that, from a technical matter, Article 9 of the bylaws, which is titled Public Relations, is just a few words long. It says the chairperson of the board or the chairperson's designee shall be the only authorized spokesperson for the board. And I think in practice, what that has meant, sometimes it's elided, but you really, before speaking to the press, you should check with the board chair. And she or he may say, you're welcome to comment on behalf of the committee consistent with your resolution or something like that, or even on behalf of the board. But you should always check with the board chair before you speak to the press. And, if the press is contacting you and you're not just interrupted on the street walking your dog, it's clearly that they're contacting you because of your membership on the board or your committee chairmanship or something. And it's not good enough to say that, you're only speaking in your personal capacity, because it's obvious that that's why when it's obvious that's why you're being sought out. So the conservative approach is to check with the board chair.
As from personal experience, I advise you of this 20, 30, 40 years ago. I don't remember, working in junior high school. My principal thought it was a good idea to invite CBS in to do a story on the school, which he never cleared with the superintendent. When the press came in, when CBS came in and began filming in the school, there were a number of situations they created on purpose and then made the person give you two examples. Example number one is a shop teacher came out of his classroom and he looked down the hall and he saw two kids sparring. So he went to break up the sparring. The kids go, "Oh, no, it's for the camera." And so the shop teacher walked away. He came out of his, that was never that was never broadcast. That was never seen. And the second time he came out, you watch him, he looks over, he sees the kids sparring, and he walks the other way. Well, that's what CBS published to make that teacher look bad, and they created that situation. Another one, a science teacher, who was a very good science teacher, in my opinion. He was walking in his classroom from student to student, helping each student as he got along. One kid in the back has his hand raised and carrying on like this, and the teachers didn't get enough time to get back to him when the bell rang, and the kid dropped his hand in frustration. That is what CBS covered. So plus we had those gratings on the windows and made the school look like a prison.
Didn't sound like that interesting.
The superintendent, the superintendent
Reaching
hit
for a
this.
story.
The superintendent hit the ceiling when he saw what was broadcast, and a number of teachers sued CBS for defamation. If they at that time that program was shown twice a week, it was shown twice in any particular week. These teachers began suing for defamation, and it was never shown a second or ever again. So be careful of the press who you think is going to help you, who could really be very nasty.
Although to be clear, we've always supported the First Amendment, and nothing we're saying does not, goes against that, because that would be the wrong message to get out.
No, understood.
Okay.
I think what I'm noticing is that press are using social media as testimony, right? Like if I post a feeling or something on my Facebook page or whatever, and now the press wants to quote it, right?
Yeah.
And then, then they see I'm affiliated with, whatever organizations, right? And this one.
Yeah.
Like, how can, is there a way that there can be misalignment in that sense? And, could we talk about what kind of protections we should create for ourselves, and being that social media is a public kind of space where these things can happen.
If they report that Sergio put on his Facebook page X, and they also add that Sergio is both a practicing attorney and a vice chair of New York City Community Board, it's fair game. And the only way to, avoid that juxtaposition that you may not be happy with is to stay off social media, which is kind of an old guy.
Right, that's very much an old guy thing, of post, but interesting questions,
But yeah, you carry it with you.
yeah.
Okay.
That's the baggage.
I'm noticing that, and I'm noticing, right, like reposting misinformation and that being aligned with your profile or your person, and I'm noticing press are starting to even outreach to people on social media platforms, and it's not just like an interview, you know what I mean? It's not so formal. It's just like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And then everyone's just like on the comments section, kind of like losing their minds. And then I'm just like, is this an appropriate space to share your thoughts, right? Because that is how a lot of people are communicating nowadays, and that is how a lot of people are getting their news nowadays. So I'm just wondering, what kind of guideline we can offer our community board members so they can, kind of not get into like muddy waters in the future.
Maybe we can put that on for like an just something that we can give an advisory opinion on, like be careful what you post because it can be used, or maybe Marty just mentioned that at a full board meeting, that it came up at the meeting, and do be careful what you post because it's all fair game. As Steve said, it's all
No,
there.
it's a very good.
And it's a good point that people don't think about, right?
Because if it all was old school and a journalist contacted you, you would really have the ability to say, you've contacted me because I'm the vice chair of the Law, Rules, and Ethics Committee, but I don't speak for the board. So I might have a personal opinion, and I can call you back. And then I call Julie, and Julie says, you're free to do X, Y, or Z. Just make it clear, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But with social media, putting the two pieces together, you don't have to
They don't
even be
need you.
involved with the
Right.
journalist.
They don't need you.
So that is a piece of advice that maybe could be part of like the orientation that we do for new members.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Or something that Marty, outside of a committee report necessarily, but takes 5 minutes to talk about.
Or
Or
both.
it doesn't have to be Marty, it could be Sergio.
Or both. Or
you know,
both.
at a board meeting.
Orientation and a board meeting, a reminder. Yeah,
Right.
It's all.
Because
It's all
that's a
grist for
really
their.
interesting-
It's all grist for their
Interesting
gristle.
juxtaposition, which I'm all too happy to see happen when people in our government are also saying pretty horrible things on social media now that our president essentially runs the government via tweet or Twitter.
Literally.
So, it's important to know what these people are saying online. It is.
Good point.
On the other hand, we know that how far back they've gone on tweets and postings and whatever that ruined a person's political career. 20 years ago, they did something, and it certainly reemerges. You got to be careful. And
That's a
by the
good-
way, between cameras on the street and access to Twitter and whatever else, I don't even know what these things are, but you cannot make the assumption of privacy. It's important to know. Find their way in. But I take all this under advisement, and I may say something tomorrow night on it. All right.
Thank you, Marty.
If there's any other comments, thoughts, ideas, no new business, no business. Next meeting is April 13th. And I wish you all April happy Easter and a happy Passover, and we meet again.
Sounds good. Thank you, Marty.
Take
Move
care.
to
Thank
adjourn.
you. Sorry, I'm
Thank
so
you.
brief today,
Second.
but I'll make up for it next meeting.
Okay.
Motion made
I'm
to
gonna
adjourn.
stop.
Any negatives? Okay, the meeting is now adjourned. Turn off the camera,
How do I stop recording?
There's right there, stop, right there. No, we just passed it. Next button, round, stop.